We've got the car. I need to get this part, this part, this part. Bugatti side have said, absolutely no chance. We can't give you the part.
I mean, people are going to come to you with their Veyrons.
People think it's made out of gold, and then what we're showing is what it actually is like.
Bugatti, for years, Bugatti has been one of the most respected names in the automotive world. The company built its reputation by creating some of the fastest, most expensive, and most advanced cars ever made. Vehicles like the Veyron and Chiron became symbols of wealth, engineering excellence, and exclusivity. Most people believe that Bugatti cars were so complex that only specially trained factory technicians could repair them. Owners often accepted this idea because they trusted the company and had the money to pay for official service. As a result, Bugatti developed an image that went far beyond simply selling cars. It sold confidence, prestige, and the belief that every part of ownership had to remain inside the Bugatti system. For many years, that system worked perfectly. Few people questioned the costs, few people challenged the repair process, and almost nobody outside the official network attempted major repairs. Then everything started to change because of one YouTube creator. That creator was Mat Armstrong. Unlike traditional automotive journalists or professional racing teams, Matt built his audience by buying damaged vehicles and bringing them back to life on camera. Millions of viewers watched him repair cars that many people considered impossible to save. His videos were entertaining because they mixed real mechanical work with personal risk and uncertainty. Every project felt like an adventure. When Matt decided to purchase a heavily damaged Bugatti Chiron, many people thought he had finally taken on a challenge that could not be completed. A Chiron is not an ordinary supercar. It is one of the most advanced road cars ever produced. Repairing one without factory support seemed unrealistic. However, that challenge was exactly what attracted viewers. From the beginning, the project became much bigger than a simple rebuild. Every update generated discussion across social media, automotive forums, and YouTube. People wanted to know whether the car could actually be repaired. They wanted to see what Bugatti parts looked like, how much they cost, and whether independent mechanics could work on such an exclusive machine. As the rebuild continued, something unexpected happened. The project began revealing information that had rarely been seen by the public. Viewers saw damaged components, replacement parts, repair estimates, and conversations about factory support. Suddenly, the mystery surrounding Bugatti ownership became much smaller. Instead of seeing the company from a distance, millions of people were getting a close look at how these cars were maintained and repaired. That visibility created a completely different conversation. The story was no longer only about fixing a crashed hypercar. It became a discussion about repair rights, manufacturer control, service pricing, and the future of independent automotive repair. Many supporters of Mat Armstrong believed he was proving that skilled mechanics outside the factory network could successfully work on extremely complex vehicles. Others argued that Bugatti had legitimate safety concerns and was simply protecting its standards. Regardless of which side people supported, one fact was impossible to ignore. The rebuild attracted enormous attention. Millions of viewers followed each update, and every new video raised fresh questions about how luxury manufacturers operate. What started as a damaged Chiron sitting in a workshop slowly turned into one of the most talked about automotive stories on YouTube. By documenting every step of the process, Mat Armstrong transformed a private repair project into a public debate that reached audiences far beyond the normal car community. That is why this story matters. It is not simply about one Bugatti, one mechanic, or one repair bill. It is about a changing industry and a challenge to long-established ideas that many people once accepted without question. To understand why the Bugatti and Mat Armstrong story became so important, it is necessary to look at the business model behind many ultra-luxury car manufacturers. Most people focus on the purchase price of Bugatti because the numbers are so large. A new Bugatti can cost several $1,000,000, making it one of the most expensive production cars in the world. However, the initial sale is only one part of the relationship between the manufacturer and the owner. Once the vehicle leaves the showroom, it enters a long period of maintenance, servicing, inspections, upgrades, and occasional repairs. These services can continue for many years, sometimes even decades. Because Bugatti vehicles are rare and highly specialized, owners traditionally rely on the company's official service network. This arrangement allows the manufacturer to maintain strict quality control while also creating an additional source of revenue. For years, this system remained largely hidden from public view because Bugatti owners rarely discussed their maintenance costs in detail. Many owners simply accepted the expenses as part of owning one of the world's most exclusive automobiles. The public knew that servicing a Bugatti was expensive, but very few people knew exactly how expensive. This lack of information helped create an almost mythical reputation around Bugatti ownership. Stories circulated online about five-figure service visits, incredibly expensive replacement parts, and maintenance procedures that seemed difficult for ordinary people to understand. Whether every story was accurate or not, the result was the same. The brand became associated with extremely high operating costs. That reputation helped reinforce the idea that Bugatti ownership existed in a completely different world from normal car ownership. Then Mat Armstrong's rebuild project began changing that perception. Through his videos, viewers started seeing real components, real repair challenges, and real discussions about replacement parts. Instead of hearing vague stories about expensive repairs, audiences watched the process unfold step by step. This transparency was unusual because most Bugatti repairs happen behind closed workshop doors. Suddenly, millions of people were learning about components that had previously received little public attention. Every time a repair estimate was discussed or a replacement part was sourced, viewers gained new insight into a system that had remained largely invisible for years. This visibility created an interesting situation. Some viewers became more impressed with Bugatti's engineering because they could see how sophisticated the vehicle was. Others focused on the costs and questioned whether certain prices were justified. The discussion expanded beyond the specific Chiron rebuild and became a broader conversation about manufacturer control. Why should only factory-approved technicians perform certain repairs? Should independent specialists have greater access to parts and technical information? How much of the high cost comes from engineering complexity, and how much comes from limited competition? These questions were not unique to Bugatti. Similar debates have appeared in industries ranging from electronics to agricultural equipment. However, Bugatti provided a particularly dramatic example because of the extraordinary value of its vehicles. A single repair decision could involve tens of thousands of dollars, making every discussion more noticeable. As the project continued, many viewers began to realize that the Real story was not simply about fixing a damaged Chiron. The larger issue involved access, information, and control. Manufacturers naturally want to protect their products and maintain safety standards. Independent repair advocates, meanwhile, argue that owners should have more freedom to choose who repairs their property. The Bugatti story placed these competing viewpoints directly in front of a massive audience. Every new video added another chapter to that debate. Whether people supported the factory approach or the independent repair approach, they could not ignore the fact that the conversation was becoming more public than ever before. What had once been an industry topic discussed by specialists was now being watched by millions of ordinary viewers around the world, and that attention was beginning to reshape how people thought about luxury car ownership. One of the biggest reasons the story attracted so much attention was the discussion surrounding parts prices and the true cost of maintaining a Bugatti. For years, stories about Bugatti service bills had spread across the internet. Some of these stories were based on real experiences, while others became larger every time they were repeated. As a result, many people developed the impression that nearly every Bugatti repair required an unbelievable amount of money. The Veyron, in particular, became famous for reports of extremely expensive maintenance procedures. Stories about tire replacements, wheel inspections, and routine servicing often appeared online and were shared as examples of how costly hypercar ownership could be. Whether people were interested in cars or not, they were fascinated by the idea of spending more on maintenance than many families spend on a house. This reputation became part of the Bugatti brand. The company was seen as a manufacturer whose vehicles existed in a completely different financial universe. However, when Mat Armstrong began documenting his Chiron rebuild, the conversation started to become more detailed. Instead of hearing rumors, viewers were able to examine actual parts and repair discussions. They watched the search for components, followed conversations about availability, and learned more about how these vehicles were assembled. Suddenly, people were no longer discussing Bugatti costs in general terms. They were discussing specific items and asking specific questions. How much does a headlight cost? Why is a particular component so expensive? Is there an alternative source for certain parts? These questions encourage viewers to think more critically about the difference between manufacturing cost, engineering value, exclusivity, and retail pricing. The discussion became even larger when public responses from Bugatti leadership entered the conversation. Many viewers interpreted these responses as evidence that the company was paying attention to the project. Regardless of the intention behind those statements, they helped increase interest in the story. Automotive enthusiasts began comparing different claims about repair costs and ownership expenses. Some argued that internet rumors had exaggerated many figures over the years. Others argued that even corrected prices remained extremely high compared to ordinary vehicles. The important point was not necessarily whether every number was accurate. The important point was that people were now discussing information that previously received very little public attention. The mystery surrounding Bugatti maintenance was being replaced by open conversation. This shift mattered because luxury brands often benefit from exclusivity and limited access. When information becomes widely available, consumers begin asking more questions. They compare prices, evaluate alternatives, and develop their own opinions. That does not automatically mean a company has done anything wrong. In many cases, expensive components are genuinely difficult to design, manufacture, and support. Bugatti engineers create products that operate at levels far beyond normal automobiles. The company must also maintain inventory, technical support, and quality standards for a very small number of vehicles. These realities naturally increase costs. At the same time, public visibility changes how people interpret those costs. A number that once sounded mysterious suddenly becomes something people can analyze and debate. This is one reason the Mat Armstrong project generated so much discussion. It transformed abstract stories into visible examples. Every repair challenge provided another opportunity for viewers to learn how a hypercar is maintained. Every replacement component raised questions about value and pricing. As more people joined conversation, the project evolved into something larger than a rebuild series. It became an educational experience for viewers who had never before seen the inner workings of a multi-million-dollar automobile. By opening the workshop doors and documenting the process, Armstrong gave audiences a level of access that was rarely available in the hypercar world, and that access changed the way many people view Bugatti ownership forever. As the rebuild continued, another important theme started to emerge, and this theme may have been even more significant than the discussion about parts prices. That theme was transparency. For decades, the world of hypercars had operated behind a curtain that very few people could see through. Most owners of vehicles like the Bugatti Veyron or Chiron were wealthy individuals who often valued privacy. Repairs were usually performed at authorized facilities. Technical information remained within approved networks, and the public rarely saw what happened when something went wrong. Because of this, manufacturers controlled most of the information that reached consumers. People saw polished marketing campaigns, beautiful promotional videos, and carefully managed public appearances. What they did not usually see were damaged vehicles sitting in workshops, technicians diagnosing problems, or owners struggling to source replacement parts. The Mat Armstrong project changed that pattern completely. Instead of showing only the finished product, he showed the entire process. Viewers saw damaged carbon fiber structures, missing components, repair challenges, unexpected setbacks, and moments of uncertainty. In many ways, the project resembled a documentary more than a traditional automotive review. Every episode provided another look behind the scenes of an industry that most people had only observed from a distance. This level of transparency was powerful because it made the car feel more real. Before the project, many people viewed a Bugatti almost like a piece of science fiction. It seemed untouchable, mysterious, and far removed from everyday life. Once the rebuild began, viewers realized that even the most expensive cars are still machines built from thousands of individual parts. They break. They require repairs, and they present challenges just like any other vehicle. Of course, the complexity and cost remain on an entirely different level, but the basic reality becomes easier to understand when people can watch the process unfold. This visibility also changed the relationship between the audience and the story. Instead of simply receiving information, viewers became participants in the journey. They discussed possible solutions in comment sections, shared technical knowledge, and debated repair strategies. Every obstacle became a community event. If a part could not be sourced, people searched for alternatives. If a technical problem appeared, viewers offered theories. The project transformed passive spectators into active followers who felt invested in the outcome. This community involvement helped explain why the rebuild gained such a large audience. People were not just watching a car being repaired. They were following a challenge that seemed almost impossible. Every success felt earned because viewers had witnessed the difficulties along the way. At the same time, transparency created pressure. When millions of people are watching a project, every decision receives scrutiny. Statements from manufacturers are analyzed. Repair estimates are discussed. Changes in policy or communication become major talking points. What might normally remain a private matter between a company and a customer suddenly becomes public conversation. This is one reason why the Bugatti story attracted attention far beyond the automotive community. It touched on broader issues that many people could understand. Questions about access to information, control of repairs, and consumer choice are not limited to cars. Similar debates happen in technology, agriculture, electronics, and many other industries. The Chiron rebuild simply provided a dramatic example because the stakes were so high. The vehicle was worth millions of dollars. The repairs were extremely complex, and the audience was enormous. As a result, every development seemed important. By documenting each stage of the process, Armstrong demonstrated the power of transparency in the digital age. Information that once remained hidden inside specialized industries can now reach millions of viewers within hours. Whether manufacturers welcome that change or resist it, the reality is that audiences have become accustomed to seeing behind the scenes. The Bugatti rebuild became one of the clearest examples of this shift, showing how a single YouTube project could influence conversations across an entire industry while changing public perceptions about one of the world's most famous automotive brands.